Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Championship Sunday here on the first cup of the summer season. And guess what? It's Father's Day. Remember to call your father, send him happy birthday. And I mean, you could also give him an in-game pet if you would like as the gift for the Father's Day. Tell him to come tune in as well while you're at it. We're having an absolute blast here. I'm Healing Stat hosting for you. We have Venruki Super Tees and Zico here. I'm serious about getting him to tune in because he will enjoy this. What comes next is going to be a fantastic series. Method Black, the #1 seed from Europe in spring, going up against the up-and-up incoming team, Change My Mind, who, honestly, on the desk, they've probably changed our mind the most out of any of the teams here.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. They're looking like a different roster. Finding that Shadow Priest Rogue really was a blessing in disguise. They were kind of forced to just adapt on the spot when their mage couldn't attend to the spring finals, and all of a sudden they have a good composition that they can run. Typically we've just been seeing them go Rogue Mage Druid. In Method Black, of course, been running that Demon Hunter DK. You can see it right there on your screen. 68% win rate for Method Black on that composition, and most of those wins were probably against Change My Mind's Rogue Mage, honestly. I feel like the matchup has shifted, though, now that all the Druids started kind of going with that Feral affinity. So we'll see what Method Black has in store for us.
I mean, I'm mostly curious to see if Method Black's going to be blocking in the Rogue Mage Druid. I think that would be a really interesting matchup. You know, Method Black, obviously, Waz, Raikou, these guys have been a Rogue Mage duo for a really long time, but looks like they are going to be opting to lock in the Rogue Mage. Change My Mind, going with a bit of a different direction here. They are going to be locking in that Shadow Priest Rogue Restoration Druid that they've sort of been forced to pick up and play really well. This should be an interesting matchup. I know Change My Mind has said in the past they actually feel like the Shadow Priest Rogue has an advantage in this particular matchup.
We haven't really got to see Method Black on their Rogue Mage too much, but they are phenomenal Rogue Mage players, of course, throughout history. So this will be quite a treat, whereas Change My Mind playing the composition that had them succeed so much so at the spring finals. So these two titans going head-to-head in the upper bracket. Waz trying to find Minpoike in the starting room, but not finding him. Able to avoid being sapped, which is very important when facing a rogue as a healer, but Chaz actually sneaks in. Minpoike wanted to be in bear form in case they tried to attack him, but in bear form you can be hibernated. At the same time, Valet counter-engaging crowd control with a Mind Bomb. It's still Acro on the back foot despite it. Minpoike has managed to stabilize with Iron Bark. Waz gets denied on his Vendetta with a kidney shot from Acro. Waz pulling the trigger on that cooldown very early on. Acro still has his available, so he can amplify his damage at any moment, and Chaz will not have Iron Bark to deal with it. Raikou not running the Temporal Shield, so maybe a target later on. Of course, the Kleptomania very effective against a Restoration Druid. Acro still the target for Method Black. They're focusing down the Rogue. This does mean that Valet on Shadow Priest could be left open. Another Hibernate found by Chaz. This is beautifully done, well set up by Raikou and Chaz. It is really putting Change My Mind behind.
Yeah, I mean, it was a nice Hibernate, but there was a Ring of Frost down as well. It was more fancy than anything. There's not too much you could do as a Restoration Druid during that double cast, and I think that really speaks volumes to the teamwork of Raikou and Chaz. Like you were saying, if they both cast out the Hibernate and the Polymorph Ring of Frost at the same time, it can be really difficult to deal with as a Restoration Druid. Actually, a defensive blind coming in from Waz onto Acro. I guess Waz feels like he was in a little bit of trouble. They're actually going to be going after Minpoike here, trying to put some pressure onto him. I believe he's actually running the Balance Affinity in this matchup, so could be a great target for Waz and Raikou to run after and really pressure down.
Although they leave Acro and Valet open to maximize their damage if they do it. So double-edged sword, he is the most easy to kill target really in terms of defense with that Balance Affinity, but at the same time, Shadow Priest free casting is very threatening. So Method Black have given up on the chase towards Minpoike and are now actually going after Valet. Method Black have been mixing it up throughout this entire game. Even just in the first couple of minutes, they've attacked every single target on the team, and that they're trying to put Change My Mind off footing and try and find a kill by surprise really with these target swaps, whereas Change My Mind are sticking with the consistency and going only after Waz. They've gotten perfect crowd control here onto Chaz, a Mind Bomb into a sap, but Waz anticipates the damage and repositions far away from Chaz, so Acro has to make a decision to either crowd control Chaz or attack Waz, and he can't do both. And because he can't do both, he's not going to kill Waz, so that was good positioning on Waz's part. Now he baits Acro to overextend, punishing him and pulling both of Acro's defensive cooldowns. This was very well done by Waz.
Yeah, really good positioning, baiting Acro, and that's not the first time we've seen that happen when these two rogues go head-to-head. Acro had to trade out his Trinket, his Evasion, and Cloak of Shadows, so he's very vulnerable. Valet, of course, with the Trinket, with the Void Shift, that extra Shadow Priest utility and defensive cooldown is going to be really big for Change My Mind in order to survive another big setup. If we look at mana right now, Minpoike a little bit behind. There's just been really good consistent pressure. Like you said, Raikou and Waz, they've really been keeping Change My Mind guessing, going after all three targets. Acro getting swapped to here. Minpoike looks to deflect it with the Iron Bark. That should be enough, but just massive damage coming in from Raikou.
Acro cycloned at low health by Chaz. Scary moment here. Another cyclone. If Minpoike gets crowd controlled, it could be the end of the game. Big hit incoming. Will he fall here? Raikou has to solo him. Waz is stunned, but Waz is coming out of that stun shortly. Acro's on the run, looking to escape. Had to use his Vanish defensively, so he's not going to be able to use that to get a sap out of a Mind Bomb. Minpoike is still crowd controlled. Method Black switched their attention to Valet. They're just maximizing output in terms of damage to try and kill maybe 2 targets at the same time while Minpoike's locked down. Valet gets cycloned on his Vampiric Embrace. The crowd control from Method Black is perfect at this point in the match. It's really making it difficult for Minpoike to recover and heal. You can see a lead in mana already established for Method Black, so winning on crowd control, which is kind of expected with the Mage versus the Shadow Priest, but also winning on pressure, winning on mana, winning on cooldown, so it is looking good for Method Black in game number 1.
Yeah, Waz, Acro still just sort of poking each other. Finally, Acro is going to be making a target change over to Raikou. He's been doing a good job in this matchup with Polymorph, with getting out damage, so maybe going after the Mage in this matchup could be a little bit more advantageous for Change My Mind, just to slow him down. But anytime Raikou gets targeted, he plays very defensive, never really looking for the crowd control, just running away, and it makes him very difficult to take down. Chaz getting caught into his sap. Decent pressure on Raikou, but it's Acro that's in trouble. Minpoike forces a Trinket of Waz's blind. Now there's no Trinket left. If the next time Minpoike gets stunned, Raikou can move in with a Ring of Frost, and a Hibernate from Chaz. There's really no answer Minpoike has, but they're opting to just go after him. Nice life grip there, leap of faith from Valet in order to keep Minpoike alive. And I think that play should be enough for him to survive, but Method Black, they're just going for it.
They're going all in, popping the Vendetta, still trying to keep Change My Mind on their toes and perhaps just kill them outright. Big attack here by Raikou. That's going to be Void Shift. Valet switching his health for Minpoike's right before Minpoike died. And now they actually switched to the Shadow Priest, which is a common strategy when Void Shift is used. Valet is holding on without having to use Dispersion, which is good for his team overall. They would be almost guaranteed to lose if they did have to use both at the same time, but they may still. I mean, the pressure from Method Black is so high. Acro tries to stabilize, but Minpoike's crowd control. Dispersion has to be traded. Valet almost going down through it. Acro disrupts the Polymorph, allowing Minpoike to get out of crowd control, but Waz continues the chain using the Kidney Shot for crowd control rather than damage. Good adaptation here to get another Polymorph. Perfect crowd control chain by Method Black is looking to secure the game. Game number 1 to Method Black, very important to win the blind pick so you can have the swing match advantage. And I'm almost wondering if this ends up being a mirror in the upper finals between Method Black and Change My Mind.
Well, they'll definitely fancy their odds a bit more in this matchup than some of the matchups we saw. Of course, they were, I think, 13-2 in the spring season. Complete domination from Method Black. They're here, you know, Change My Mind on more of a comfortable pick. Still, though, Method Black, maybe they look like they had an edge in the matchup, or maybe they just played it better.
Well, I spoke with Acro after spring finals, and if you guys remember, they actually lost to ABC playing that Rogue Mage Druid, and Acro said if we had Fried Kitty, we would go for the Rogue Mage Druid mirror. So I think it's very likely that we can see a Rogue Mage Druid mirror here in the next game. And I mean, Method Black, total domination in this game. They had so many good swaps. They forced out Acro's defensive cooldowns. They blinded up Minpoike, made an attempt onto Acro, forced out Minpoike's Trinket. Then they swapped over to Minpoike, forced out the Void Shift, Cyclone Minpoike, going on to Valet, and they get his Dispersion as well. And then here they do another crowd control here with the Polymorph from Raikou, and of course the Cyclones from Chaz, and that's going to be enough to take Valet down here. No more defensives available, and that's really nice. When you play the Rogue Mage Druid, you're kind of swapping between the targets. You go on the Rogue, you can force out the Druid's Trinket with a blind because you have so much pressure. Then you can go on the Druid, he doesn't have a Trinket. You can force out some of that utility from the Shadow Priest, things like the Leap of Faith, things like the Void Shift, and then you can go over to the Shadow Priest and extend the crowd control by crowd controlling the Druid. So that's what Method Black did, and it was just textbook gameplay here. They look like they've been on this composition the entire time.
Yeah, even though they really haven't. They've been relying on basically every other composition. But, of course, this was the blind pick, the way that our format works, Nagrand Arena. Neither team knows what the other one was playing. Do you think that Method Black locked in their Rogue Mage Druid, anticipating a Rogue Mage Druid mirror from Change My Mind?
Well, I feel like for Method Black, it's like, worst case, we get a Rogue Mage Druid mirror. Best case, they get this matchup. And I'm not entirely sure who is actually favored in this matchup because we haven't really seen it too much, but from talking to Acro, he seemed to think at least that he'd rather play a Rogue Mage Druid mirror than this matchup. Maybe they are actually favored, but they just don't have the reps in this particular matchup.
Okay, fair enough. So that might be something we see then. Obviously, there was a lot of confidence, and one of the big themes of the spring finals was, that lower bracket final where AWC were able to reverse sweep Method Black, and Method Black didn't once try the Rogue Mage Mirror, so maybe not the absolute confidence there. Change my mind. Do we all want to see the mirror here coming out in this next game from them? Should Method Black lock in Rogue Mage themselves?
Well, I wanted to say in the pregame, I feel like Change My Mind, this is a team that's been running Rogue Mage Druid throughout the entire spring season. I mean, if there's any team that could go head-to-head with Method Black in a Rogue Mage mirror, it would be them. I mean, that is pretty much their composition. That's what they've been running the entire time. That's what they've been relying on. So I would have liked to see it in the blind pick. I'm actually kind of curious what they were afraid of. And if they think that Rogue Mage Druid is a better matchup for them into Rogue Mage Druid, like they want to go for that mirror match, I'm wondering why they even bothered with the Shadow Priest at all.
Yeah, and that could be something that we see. Like if it does go to Rogue Mage Mirror, they end up winning, then Method Black might come out with something else. We'll have to see. Method Black are always kind of tricky in their draft, Sid. Would you like to see them going for some sort of other composition, or do you always lock in Rogue Mage here?
I'm not sure if you always lock in Rogue Mage. I'm wondering why Change My Mind picked Dalaran Sewers. I think that maybe they're trying to bait Method Black into locking Demon Hunter Death Knight. I don't think they're going to. I think because the Demon Hunter Death Knight isn't really an option for them, that they do Rogue Mage as they're blind at least once while they're up in the series, and they're not expected to win this game because it's supposed to be the counter pick for Change My Mind. And then if it doesn't work out, they can try in a different composition. I think the Windwalker Death Knight might be the best overall for them against Change My Mind, but I don't really see Method Black as the Windwalker Death Knight threat that a lot of other teams are with that specific composition. So, I mean, this series could easily just turn into Rogue Mage mirrors back and forth, and if Change My Mind are on point with their Rogue Mage like they were in Season 1, then they could take down Method Black, and if they're not, then, well, then it's just they're the superior team. I mean, it's a mirror match, right? You can't really say anything else. So Change My Mind have an opportunity here to either mirror match or go for the Shadow Priest Rogue again. I'm wondering...
Maybe Fried Kitty's on vacation.
Maybe it's Fried Kitty's day.
I mean, that's kind of a theme for Change My Mind. They always want to be that three-man roster. They always give someone a day off, so maybe that's what's going on. I'm not sure, because this doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, Change My Mind, more like change my work schedule or something. Like these guys, they just can't seem to find a day where all four of them are available. Maybe we need to start catering the tournaments to them a little bit more. But Fried Kitty doesn't come in here, despite all those things you were saying with Acrolaws, and I was getting the same gist from them that they felt really confident in the mirror. They're given, the table is set for them, but they don't serve up the dish.
Yeah, they don't serve up the dish, and this is a dish best served fried, so I'm not really sure where he is, but I think
most dishes are.
Yeah, I love fried dishes.
I do like
in America, it's so great, dude. It's absolutely incredible.
Well, I guess they like the Shadow Priest Rogue matchup, and maybe they feel like they just could have played it a little bit better. I would say that either way, even if they are disadvantaged in this matchup, I don't think it's a big disadvantage. I think it's something like, a 60-40 or a 55-45. Definitely have a lot of opportunity to win. On a smaller map, I feel like Chaz could be a potential target as well for Change My Mind. I think that's really what's going to be opening up a lot of the plays for Change My Mind, because Chaz in the previous game was just on fire. He was landing Hibernates, he was landing Cyclones, he was landing Cyclones on Belay as well. So the smaller map, I want to see Change My Mind go after him and try to shut some of that down.
Yeah, maybe the fried food doesn't belong in the sewer. Well, I mean, at least for a few hours. But Method Black are one game up here, looking to go 2 up in the series.
I don't want to taste anything in the sewers, Adrian, okay? We see Mindseer onto Acro to try and find a member of the opposing team in stealth. Sap on Minpoike. This could be devastating if Method Black can engage. Acro, though, intercepts Waz, saving Minpoike from the initial attack. Although now Waz looks to reverse it. Good adaptation despite being caught. Method Black secure crowd control into 3 members, which is exactly what they need to do to force significant defensive cooldowns. they're still not getting it. They're not finding even an Iron Bark for that first attack. That is unfortunate for Method Black. Change my mind in a stable position. Method Black switching targets to go after Valet. I do like this from Method Black, is that they're not sticking to one specific strategy. They're always switching targets, keeping Change My Mind on their toes. One main advantage of this is that Minpoike has to spend a lot of mana because he has to have heal over time effects on 3 members of the team rather than only on 1 member of the team. So Method Black at least secure a guaranteed victory through mana by switching targets. They also can get surprise kills if the enemy team isn't ready for a swap, and I do like the swaps from Method Black. I think that is going to be key to their victory overall in the series. Change My Mind, on the other hand, their crowd control chains have been a bit slow. It feels like they're always waiting a little bit longer than they really need to start a crowd control chain. And then without crowd control, Chaz is just easily healing through the damage. So I would like to see more Silence Mind Bombs or Bash Cyclones from Change My Mind. I'd like to just see them play a bit more aggressive, a little less defensive, but maybe they're forced to play so defensive because of Method Black switching targets so frequently.
Yeah, I think switching targets, switching where you're dealing damage is important, but another big thing is Raiku's able to just switch up his polymorph. So if they go after Valet, then they polymorph up Acro. And once Acro, you know, he's going to survive because he has all those heal over time effects. That's when they can just put a polymorph on Acro. And because of that, they're really just limiting the damage. You can see Valet, he's just, you know, munching on those polymorphs right now. Poike's having a difficult time actually, you know, dispelling him out and freeing him up. Waz on the run. Acro trying to generate some pressure. Good crowd control over onto Chaz. Waz behind the pillar in a good position in line of sight of Chaz. Does connect some of those heals, and I think he's actually going to be able to get a re-stealth here, which will be big.
Waz blinded Acro and then auto-attacked it.
I think it was a pet, wasn't it?
Was it a pet? I mean, either way, that's your most powerful crowd control. I was wondering why it was even on the Rogue, if that was just a mistake outright, or if they had a plan for it and then it just went haywire. Method Black making another switch, going after the healer on Change My Mind. And Poike was ready, had Barkskin available, and Valet backed him up by pulling him back to the boxes so that he could line of sight. Acro is then pressuring Waz, so when the enemy team has a Rogue, a Warrior, Death Knight, some sort of melee class, and they're attacking your healer, it is usually a good idea to either crowd control that melee or go after them and try and force them away from your healer. So in this situation, Acro is attacking Waz, preventing him from chasing down Minpoike, who he would like to be attacking and forcing cooldowns from. Still the mana in favor of Method Black, although we do finally see pressure for Change My Mind with Raikou and Waz hovering at about 60% health. Double crowd control cast by Method Black, denied though by Mass Dispel of Valet. Immediate reaction there. Acro trying to catch Waz again with a smoke bomb play, but almost 0 to damage taken in that attempt. That's usually a very scary moment when a rogue uses a smoke bomb, but Waz takes 0 damage as a result of it and now can start playing a lot more aggressive.
All right, he's going to be moving in. Acro still the target of choice. Good crowd control coming in from Raikou once again. They just can't find the crowd control on him in Poike. They actually make a swap. Acro trying to back him up, but he's crowd controlled up. Waz on a solo mission. Frozen Orb finally gets dropped in. Raikou in a good position to finally get some damage rolling. That position was nice from Minpoike. He manages to leap away, dispel off the Gladiator's Maledict. Another one flies in from Raikou, but I think Minpoike will ultimately survive. A nice little Kleptomania spellsteal on that Innervate. Raikou making sure to strip that from Minpoike so he doesn't get those free heal overtime effects. That's going to tax his mana even more. But if we look at mana, despite the fact that Method Black, they've been all over the place, Minpoike has been able to manage his mana quite well, and he's actually relatively even with Chaz.
Yep, they definitely need to keep that in mind, as this will inevitably play out for mana and dampening if either team can't find a kill with crowd control and pressure. Valet getting switched to by Method Black. They get Gladiator's Medallion from him, and that's usually, you want to use that with Void Shift. So later on, Method Black can punish Valet for using that Gladiator's Medallion a bit prematurely. It wasn't, I don't think it was very required when Dispersion was available. Smoke Bomb is also a good punish on using that Gladiator's Medallion. Valet can't escape the Smoke Bomb too easily without being able to get out of crowd control. Blind was used on Minpoike, so they've got Minpoike's Gladiator's Medallion and they've got Valet's Gladiator's Medallion. When 2 players are down that, they cannot remove crowd control. This is a big opportunity for Method Black to make a push to end the game. Perhaps another switch to Minpoike. Currently Method Black are pulling away from the enemy team, perhaps trying to bait Minpoike to push forward or just set up a drink if they don't. They have to make a move quickly. Chaz is regenerating mana. Method Black go for the swap to the healer while Minpoike moved into center field. Chaz gets full mana. Minpoike falls behind on cooldowns, and this is looking grim in game 2.
Yeah, definitely not the best situation to be in. Kitty shot now onto Raikou. Chaz denies that with the Iron Bark with 3% dampening. Mind Bond coming in. These crowd control chains finally starting to develop themselves for Change My Mind, but they just haven't really been getting too many defensive cooldowns. You know, Raikou has both of his ice blocks, Waz in a good position with his trinket, Cloak of Shadows, evasion, and Poike falling behind. Another setup here onto Acro. Good burst damage coming in from Raikou. Ray of Frost being fully channeled, whilst at the Vanish cheap shot, extending the crowd control chain. Acro trying to survive. He has the evasion up, trying to just avoid a lot of this incoming damage from Waz with that, giving him some additional evasion. Waz with a beautiful Shadow Step kick into a Polymorph on the leg. Good control here from Method Black, and now Acro's frozen. He's in a Cyclone, can't get healed up by Minpoike. Minpoike trying to sneak away for a drink, but he's kind of left Acro behind. He's in a kidney shot, he has to trinket. He has the evasion, just relying on, or he has the Vanish, just relying on that feint for now. Big burst damage from Raikou and Waz. Acro could be in some trouble. Minpoike finally backing him up. Keep in mind, Valet has the Void Shift if he needs it. He can swap his hit points with Acro at any moment, but I have to say this matchup is looking as one-sided as the Grand Arena. Method Black just seems to be ahead in all regards.
I think at this point, if you're changing my mind and you end up losing this game, you have to switch composition. This is just not looking good at all for them. Method Black were more than prepared. Changed my mind, looked to try and pull off a miracle, but Chaz totally denied it. Iron Barking before Smoke Bomb, Iron Barking before being crowd controlled. He read them like a book and totally shut down what would have otherwise been a big push, an opportunity to perhaps win the game or at least get significant defensive cooldowns. But now they basically get nothing. Dampening continues to get higher, and Minpoike's mana doesn't, so Chaz is chasing down Minpoike to stop him from drinking. The pressure is still mounting on Acro. He's got no defense for 26 seconds. Big opportunity for Method Black, but Changed My Mind and Defiance are trying to kill Waz at the same moment in time, at least pulling Cloak of Shadows from him, and at least keeping it close in terms of cooldowns. Frozen Orb to stop Minpoike from drinking, beautifully done from Raikou. It's all about stopping that mana regeneration at this point. I would have anticipated that the Shadow Priest team would focus on sustained pressure and a mana advantage, but it's actually Method Black that have the lead. It's just so impossible at this point for Minpoike to drink if Method Black stay on top of him, even just committing the Water Elemental to chase down Minpoike. Perhaps they just kill Minpoike, catching him out of form downstairs. Acro tries to support. Ursul's Vortex on that life grip, beautifully done by Chaz. Total shutout, honestly, by Method Black. In every single regard, they are in the lead.
Yeah, with this composition, they just have complete control of the game. But Waz is in a little bit of trouble. He's got no Cloak of Shadows. He's got no Trinket. Maybe he overstayed his welcome. Chaz has a little bit of catch-up to do, but if he does keep him alive, he's got a massive mana lead. In the meantime, Minpoike was able to sneak away. Is he going to be able to recover some mana? Raikou chases him down. Minpoike only got the smallest a bit of mana recovered, but now you can see Raikou is just entangling, rooted out of line of sight. Can't really do much in this fight. Waz on a solo mission, trying to get some pressure rolling onto Valet until Raikou can get back into the fight. Cyclone on Minpoike. Valet could be in a little bit of trouble. He does have a lot of defensive cooldowns available if he really needs them, but I think he should be able to hold on. Once Minpoike gets out of the Cyclone, he should be able to easily top him off. Nice Shadow Step kick from Acro onto Chaz, but Raikou with these polymorphs has just been severely limiting any damage output. Changed My Mind can really develop.
I mean, at this point, you have to kill Waz. Raikou has 2 more ice blocks. That's too many cooldowns to work through. Can they kill Waz before they're just totally tapped out? Valet disperses during Smoke Bomb. Fair trade there, but won't have dispersion in a minute now for Vendetta. That's very deadly moment of opportunity for Method Black. If they can make it to that point, though, they've got Chaz crowd controlled. They don't get any follow-up, and that's... Oh, they finally do. They get the Cyclone on Chaz, but Acro is polymorphed away. Raikou immediately Frost Novaing Acro out of the chain. Acro just not moving for such a substantial amount of time, and now Method Black look to counter-engage. No one can deny the crowd control. Minpoike is taken out of the fight. Valet is solo unhealthy. He wants to Void Shift and save the Gliders Medallion, but he's out of line of sight. He's out of line of sight and can't switch his health to break the polymorph. Unfortunate for Change My Mind, but even if they did, they were just getting owned in game 2. I think that a composition change is required at this point.
Yep. Yeah, just looked like a complete shutout. Method Black, they have complete control over the game, they have complete control over damage, and it doesn't look like Change My Mind have any openings.
Yeah, I mean, they had some pressure at some points, but for the most part, it just looked like Method Black, they had all their defense available, and Method Black were in the driver's seat. Raikou getting so much crowd control, and Method Black just did a good job swapping around it. Every time Raikou polymorphed Valet, they would go after Acro, then they would polymorph Acro, go after Valet, they would set up swaps on Minpoike as well, just constant pressure everywhere. And of course, the Kleptomania is such a big reason as well why the mana looks the way it does. Chaz able to sneak away for drinks anytime Method Black sets up one of these crowd control chains. And of course, the Kleptomania just burns so much mana, just using it on cooldowns, doing setups, and that that's ultimately what got them the win here. Of course, the last part of the game was so well executed. Akros caught up in a whole bunch of crowd control with the Frost Nova and the polymorphs right there. Minpoike getting bashed and into a polymorph behind the pillar, and then of course Acro here getting cycloned. Now Minpoike, he should trigger this polymorph and just walk into Villay's line of sight, or Acro should trigger the cyclone there, and nobody responds, and you can't void shift a cyclone target, of course. It just immunes the effect, so that's why he ultimately ended up going down there.
Yeah, I mean, it was a really well-played series, I think, is the theme. Method Black really returning back to their online form we saw in the spring season. You don't want to go anywhere, guys. We'll see if they can make it through to the grand final next. One of the greatest questions of all time, to be here or not to be here. Fried Kitty, that's the question we're asking for him, as Minpoike, Acrolos and Villay are locked in once again after Method Black has looked dominating in the last 2 games against them.
I mean, Fried Kitty must just not be available.
I need to change my schedule, change my composition, change everything to change my mind, because at this point, Method Black, it looks like they're going to be walking away with the series. I don't even know what strategy change my mind could really go with. It just feels like the Frost Mage in this matchup, with the way they're playing it, really just abusing the fact that they have Polymorph, able to just crowd control up Acro whenever they're on Villay, and vice versa. They get crowd control on Villay anytime they go after Acro. It just allows them so much momentum in this matchup.
I mean, look already, Method Black crowd controlling 2 members of the team with decent pressure on Villay. If they can hold out and get a dispersion only or an Ironbark only, that would be likely the best result, or the best result would be not having to use any cooldowns at all. These polymorphs from Raikou have been on point. Anytime Waz is stunned or Chaz is stunned, he instantly polymorphs Acro and stops him from attacking during the stun, which is a crucial moment in time to crowd control an enemy player. And he's been doing it instantaneously every single time, which is why Acro just can't get anything going. Then Method Black recover, and they begin to counter-attack. I really am impressed with Method Black's Rogue Mage Druid synergy, considering we haven't seen it a lot from them this year at all. They've been focusing mostly on that Demon Hunter Death Knight and a couple Spellcaster Cleaves, so they're coming back strong with this Rogue Mage Druid. And I mean, it's looking like they're going to be able to clean this series up 3-0. I don't want to change my mind totally out, because they have been on a bit of a tear, but so far in this series, it just feels like they're playing slow, just not engaging crowd control nearly as frequently, or as frequently, or on the right targets at the right time, and Method Black is just being able to smack them around.
Yeah, I mean, they just have complete control. It seems like, from watching this matchup, Method Black does have a compositional advantage. That's why we really wanted to see Change My Mind bring in their Rogue Mage Druid, at least for a mirror match, but it doesn't look like it's going to be able to happen. Of course, Change My Mind, they still have a chance in this matchup, but it's an uphill battle on Ashamane's Fall, and they are just 1 game away from being sent down to the lower bracket to play against Wildcard Gaming once again. I have to see how that plays out a little bit later on. If Change My Mind can't hold on. Good pressure here on the Waz, though. Nice little feint is going to be denying a lot of that incoming damage. Now kidney shot onto Villay. We'll have to see if Minpoike can keep him alive. Chaz moving forward, securing some crowd control. Bash into Cyclone. And another one of the problems that Villay has on the Shadow Priest is he doesn't have a ranged interrupt like Raikou. So anytime Chaz wants to move in, get the bash into the Cyclone, there's not too many ways they can stop it. Of course, Villay, he has the Master Spell, which he was able to get off to free up Minpoike from some of that crowd control. But without that ranged interrupt, your healer is just so much more susceptible to being bullied by the enemy Druid.
Yeah, Chaz is drinking and Villay is at low health, so Method Black can regenerate. Actually not. I'm very surprised that he didn't just continue to sit down and regenerate mana. They still had so much pressure. He's actually very far behind. This is at least something going in favor of Change My Mind. They have a lot more of a mana advantage. Decent pressure right now on Waz. Perhaps they can turn this around and reverse sweep if they keep this up. They need to stop Chaz from drinking, which makes me wonder why they picked one of the easiest maps for a Druid to drink on if this was going to be their plan, to try and out-pressure Method Black. Chaz is looking for that drink, and Minpoike is shutting him down. They're going to have to keep their eyes on Chaz this entire game. If at any point he can regenerate back to full mana, they're going to lose the advantage.
Yeah, Villay gets put into a Frost Nova behind the pillar. Really can't get anything rolling. Minpoike there for a nice little dispel. But at this point, it's difficult for them. Bash onto Minpoike. Cyclone once again. Acro getting swapped to. Big kidney shot and big damage. Villay might have to help him out with that Void Shift. He wants to hold on. Cloak of Shadows is enough for now, but if they can get the Cyclone onto Acro, is Chaz going to be able to do it? He gets silenced up. Good denial there by Villay. If he can cycle him at low health, this is going to be a disaster situation for Change My Mind. In the meantime, though, Waz in a little bit of trouble. Full sap onto Chaz, and now it's Waz. He's in so much trouble. No Kolka Shadows, no evasion, no trinket. He's left all alone, but Acro just can't get there. Raikou, beautiful crowd control, denying anything Change My Mind can do. Waz manages to hold on.
Once again, Raikou stalling the game. Perfect aggression, perfect defense. Acro was clutch there, almost getting a kill on Waz. Beautifully sapped onto Chaz, and then shadow stepping the evasion to get behind Waz, which evasion otherwise denies all melee attackers, but if you get behind the target, it doesn't do anything. So Acro uses shadow step. This places his rogue behind the target. He did that instantaneously, stunning up Waz and creating a situation where they almost got a kill. Perhaps if they can repeat that a few times, they could find victory. They still have a pretty big mana lead, but Chaz is running off into the corner. If Chaz sits down for any sort of mana regeneration, I don't think Change My Mind can take this anymore. He's sitting down. No one stopped him. How much mana? Not too much, actually. He comes back into the fight. He's a bit worried about Waz because the pressure overall from Change My Mind is a lot higher than Game 1 and Game 2. Acro caught in a smoke bomb. Waz looking for the power play. Big hit on that Comet Storm. Acro in so much trouble at this point. Valet cannot void shift. He's in crowd control. He needs to be dispelled. Acro gets cycloned at low health. Valet is interrupted, but not on Shadow. He can use the void shift. He needs to time it perfectly. He gets crowd controlled again. He's unable to. If he gets cycloned, it's easily GG. He is not cyclone. He can use it. They're holding on. They're trying to be greedy in this position, but I don't know if this is a position where you can really get away with it. He's trying to, against all odds, hold on to dear life, and Poike gets in. Surely they'll have to use Void Shift at this point. I mean, honestly, the Void Shift finally comes out. Change My Mind holding on to that until the absolute last second.
Yeah, that was a bit of a disaster situation. Valet was the only thing that could keep Acro alive, and actually just ran into a Ring of Frost. It wasn't even placed on top of him, almost throwing away that particular moment in the game, but ultimately does manage to hold on. Now getting swapped to his low health from the Void Shift. Uses Shadow Meld on one of the incoming Gladiator's Maledicts, but he's still in trouble. Then Poike is going to have to play catch-up. He has the Iron Bark, but opting not to use it. Valet with a lot of self-healing with that Vampiric Embrace. Can Waz and Raikou sort of push through? Full blind on him and Poike. What is Valet going to do? Using the Greater Fate, trying to get out of line of sight, trying to keep himself alive. Full Polymorph now secured with the Kidney Shot. Dispersion has to be used, but you can see now Valet, he is such a vulnerable target. And Poike still no trinket for 40 seconds. Valet, no dispersion, no trinket, no void shift, no anything. Acro is going to have to pull out some sort of miracle in order to keep him alive.
Chaz is going for a drink. If Poike moves to stop him, then he can't heal Valet. So Chaz is likely to regenerate a lot of mana, or Valet will die. It's basically checkmate for Change My Mind. It's unmatched points, and Poike is Cyclone. There's nothing left. Valet gets crushed.
Oh, the blind.
The blind on the Waz. Can Valet survive? No. Big shatter combo coming in from Raikou. And honestly, he almost lived there, but it just wasn't enough. Method Black in the driver's seat the entire series, and I can't help but feel like Change My Mind once again. They didn't have their fourth member, otherwise I can't understand why they wouldn't go into a mirror match.
Okay, I did just message Fried Kitty. I was just hitting him up, just being like, hey, like, what's going on here? We'd love to see some mirrors. He said the RPD, he feels like it should be, you know, a good matchup for them. He is available. They're just deciding that this is the matchup that they wanted to play. Based on these 3 games, I have to say that I wasn't super convinced. It seems like Method Black does have a kind of confident matchup here. But that said, you know, like looking at the rest of the bracket, now Change My Mind going to Wildcard Gaming. If Friday repeats itself, we could have this team for the grand finals. Maybe we will see some mirrors.
Yeah, but I feel like once you're down 0-2, you may as well try the mirror. I feel like the RPD, it wasn't hopeless. This was the best game. There was a really nice opportunity there onto Waz. They had a full sap onto Chaz, and there was no trinket and no defensives available, but Raikou came in clutch with the Pet Nova onto Acro, and then of course the Polymorphs to back that up as well, and he bought Waz enough time to survive, and then Chaz of course came out of the crowd control, and here at the end as well, the checkmate situation here. Poike, what are you going to do? Are you going to help Valet here, or are you going to stop Chaz's drink? Whatever you decide to do, it's not a great situation to be in. If you decide to stay and heal up the Shadow Priest on your team, well, guess what? Chaz is going to come back with half mana, you know, 60% mana, and then you're most likely going to lose the long game. Or if you stop the drink, then there's a risk, of course, that Valet just dies. So, I mean, Poike kind of caught in an awkward situation there at the end, and not really an easy choice to make there. He could have thrown out the Iron Bark beforehand, but just too far behind, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it was an interesting situation, right? Like, it did seem like, it actually reminded me a lot of the Move series at the end of yesterday, where changed my mind. The first game looked terrible. Each game did get better and better, but it's still, I mean, maybe if we had another 5 games or so, you could see Method Black starting to drop 1 or 2 of them. It definitely felt like this was changed my mind, you know. They've been experimenting, testing the waters with this Shadow Priest Rogue composition. Maybe they're starting to find some of the limits here. Method Black have had their number throughout spring, but we do now have our first grand finalist of the day, Method Black, who have been looking dominant. You know, we were saying they've come in the top 2 every single cup so far this year.
Yeah, surprise, surprise. Method Black going to be in the grand finals. Now, the main question for me is it going to be another wild card gaming versus Method Black in that grand final?